Hello, my friends. I promised us yesterday that I'm going to have a discussion about how culture and religion can solve a problem that genetics apparently has not been able to solve. According to Stephen Weinstein of the University of Pennsylvania, in his very well written Origins of the Jewish People, geneticists have not been able to find a Jewish gene, and also they have not been able to find a Cohen gene. All the information available establishes a fact. Genetics has not been able to tell us this gene is unique only to the Jewish people, only to the Kohanim. This should be self-explanatory, but I will go on and explain what he means and what I understand him to mean. Those genes we've been reading about for years in relation to many groups have been found in other populations. The Cohen modal haplotype has been found in Arab populations, in Kurdish populations, in African populations. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said African because Africa is a continent. But in some groups that are African, the same haplotype has been found. And since this haplotype has been found in populations that have no clear relationship to the Israelites, we can rule with 100% certainty that geneticists have not found a Jewish gene or a Cohen gene. As of now, they have not found them. They may find them in the future, but for now, they don't exist. A gene will be called English gene if that gene is not found in the Irish, in the French, in the German, and other ethnicities. But if it is found in these other ethnicities, we cannot say we have found the English gene. So these genes that we are taught to be peculiar to the Jews, to the Kohen, have been found in these other populations. So that rests the case. We have not found the Jewish or the Kohen gene. I promised us that I will use culture to fill the gap. There are certain traditions that are found in Israelite groups or that are found in the cultures of Israelite groups that are not found in the cultures of any other group in the world. Culture, traditions. I will talk about a few in this discussion. Abraham bought land. The Igbo people do not believe there is any other way of acquiring land you did not inherit from your ancestors than buying it. Even if you offer an Igbo a piece of land free and you are a fellow Igbo, an exchange still has to occur. But what is this tradition even talking about? To understand what this tradition that Abraham practiced, that the Igbos are practicing, you have to contrast it with the opposite. All the wars of imperialism, all the colonial wars were fought by peoples who have traditions that force them to believe that they can grab the lands of others because they happen to have military strength. The Hebrews did not see the world that way. They have this view of land that it's either the one God gave to them or the one they buy with their money that belongs to them. I have surveyed the world, the cultures in the world, starting from Nigeria, which is the country of which is my nationality. I do not see this tradition outside the Igbo community. I just don't see it. There is a unique hatred of the authoritarian running through the Israelites. That same hatred of the authoritarian ran through the Igbos before they became Christians. One of the most popular sayings of the Igbos before they became Christians, and even now, though they have lost the raising the ete of saying Igbo enweze. Igbo enweze means Igbos don't have human kings. Every Igbo is equal. For Igbos to succumb to viewing pretenders as their kings, they had to be passed through Christianity, which is essentially one-man rule too. So, conditioned by Christianity, they can now look at a peer and not feel offended when he begins to address himself as His Royal Majesty or Igwe. Essentially, they stopped being Igbos and became something else, so they can tolerate that. But take them back to what they were before they became Christians. They were identically like the Israelites. A kinsman of Saul followed David, the king, harassed him all the way to the borders of Israel when Absalom was after him. Igbos know that this cannot obtain in all the surrounding kingdoms, in all the surrounding ethnic groups in Nigeria, even though these kings in Nigeria now do not have power, but they are still worshipped by their peoples, because that is the nature of kingship. That is their culture. By the way, I'm not condemning their culture. It is their culture. It is good for them. I'm only trying to draw a contrast. The third tradition that you find only in biblical Israel and that you find only in the Igbo society is this grossly misunderstood tradition called Osu, or position. Even our great Chinua Achebe did not fully understand it, because when he wrote it, he was just a 28 years old convert to Christianity. The Osu, the people called Osu in the Igbo society, were priests in the sanctuaries in Israel. Reckless scholars have tried to compare them to the Harijan in India, but they are opposites. A Harijan in India has no rights. Even in the year 2020, if his shadow fell across the shadow of an upper caste Indian, he could lose his life. But among the Igbo, to verbally insult the Osu, the community finds you. And that is the practice, that is the tradition, that is the culture in biblical Israel. Saul's family was almost wiped out because Saul killed some Gibeonites, and the Gibeonites got the status of Osu in Israel. It was that status that Joab, Nabuchi or Chibunna, that's the Igbo translation of Joab, was aiming for when Solomon had him dragged out of the temple and killed. He knew that once he ran into that sanctuary, he will earn total immunity. You don't find this tradition anywhere outside the Igbo world and biblical Israel. So what are we looking at? What geneticists have not been able to do to prove that there are a group of people that are unique by genes. Culture has been able to prove it, that there are people that are unique by culture, the Israelite people. How does this link the Jews? There are traditions that the Jews practice, which you find only among the Igbo. For example, mourning the egregious sinner alive. If you do terrible things in the Jewish community, you'll be mourned while you are still alive. Do the same thing among the Igbos, you will still be mourned while you are still alive. And by the way, I will close by also using history as a methodology. Other groups related to these Israelite people, like the African American, the Caribbean, some Sierra Leoneans, some Liberians, some people that are even Gabonese today. I will repeat, some African Americans, some Caribbeans, some Sierra Leoneans, some Liberians, some Gabonese, some Cape Verdeans. The last two. Societies got Igbos because of the tragedy of Biafra. There was a time the Red Cross was looking for places to send orphaned Igbo children. So some ended up in Gabon and Cape Verde. But the other groups I mentioned, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Africa, America, the Caribbeans, and maybe Canada to some extent, got Igbos because of the transatlantic slave trade. We can find history that tells us that Igbos got there. A topical one was one of the founders of the abolitionist movement, Olaudah Equiano, even though he held a British passport, but he passed through the United States and the Caribbeans. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.